Hello everyone, welcome back to Atreyu Crochet. So in today's video we will actually be making the men's crochet bean stitch hat that I promised you guys last week. So hopefully you guys have been practicing that bean stitch. It's really not hard once you get the hang of it. But yeah, I'm very excited and I hope that you are as well. So this pattern is going to call for a few things. Obviously you're going to need some yarn. This is by Yarn Bee. It's Hue IQ and it's about 57 yards, 3.5 ounces. It's 100 grams and you're going to need 2 to 3 of these. I have 3 just to be safe, and we're going to be using a size 7mm crochet hook. You'll need also a darning, weaving, tapestry needle. You'll need a pair of scissors and then a tape measure. Alright, so I have, like I said, 3 of these balls because I plan on making a size to fit a man. This is a man's hat. Obviously it doesn't have to be a man's hat, so we'll use the tape measure to make sure that it fits a man, and if the person has a smaller head, then they can just use the tape measure accordingly. Okay, let's get to this tutorial. Alright, so we're going to start out with a slip knot, of course. Pull that one over that one, leaving that one on the finger. While you pull up, we'll insert our size 7mm, that is US, crochet hook into the hole and then tighten. Alright, so we are going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we're going to skip this first chain from the hook and go into the second chain from the hook. That one. 1, 2. So second chain from the hook. We're going to enter that and put a single crochet. And yarn over, go through both loops. Now we are going to put 1 single crochet into the remaining chains. So if you chained 5, we skipped a chain and now we're putting 1 single crochet into each of the remaining chains. That means you're going to have a total of 4 single crochets. Let's count them. Alright, that one right there in the corner, that's 1, and that's its top. 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and in this very same stitch that we just chained 1 up from, so right there, so here's the chain 1, that's the stitch that we chained 1 up from, and it happens to also be the last single crochet of the previous row. We're going to work into that back loop a single crochet. So put your crochet hook in that back loop. The front loop was there untouched, but that back loop, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, go through 2. Alright, here's the next single crochet. That's the front loop because that's the loop closest to us. You want that back loop, and usually when I'm working the back stitches I kind of like to angle my work toward me so I can get more of an aerial view and see exactly where I'm going. So just go into that back loop, yarn over, pull through to the front, 2 loops on a crochet hook, yarn over, go through 2. Next one is right there, the back loop, yarn over, pull through to the front, 2 loops on a crochet hook, yarn over, go through 2. That final one, which if you have your work this way you can miss, but if you kind of angle it like that you can more clearly see that last single crochet. And remember, that's the front loop, we want the back loop, so go into that, yarn over, pull through to the front, 2 loops, 1, 2, yarn over, go through 2. So you're gonna have to kind of be careful with your yarn, especially if it's this exact yarn, because there's so many individual strands that make up the one strand that we're working with because this is a chunky yarn. So just make sure that you are not splitting the yarn, okay? And you'll be able to tell if you have tension, you're not splitting it. If I was unable to pull up on it, that means that I've split my yarn somewhere, so I should take it out and fix that. Alright, so that's 2 rows. Chain 1. This is how you're going to begin every new row. Chain 1, turn it around, and then start to work in those back loops again. So don't forget that that very first stitch that chain 1 is coming out of, that's where you're going to put your first single crochet, like that. Alright, and then we're just going to continue to make single crochets across this row, maintaining a total of 4 single crochets for each row. Here's that last one right there. I'll get chain 1, turn my work, and so on. Okay, so just continue doing this until it can fit around the head of the person that this hat is for. Okay, you want it to fit nice, and I don't want to say too tight, but you want it to fit kind of snug, right? Because this is going to be the ribbing part of the hat, it will want to stretch some. So you don't want this end to overlap with this end once you get it really long, right? You only want just as much as you need to fit it around either your head or, you know, like I said, the person's head who you are making this for. So just continue doing rows and rows, and I will meet you once this ribbing is long enough to fit around my head. Alright, I have crocheted 54 rows. I hope you guys have been working in the back loops of the single crochets so that you're getting the ribbing effect. In terms of how many rows you're going to need, obviously, like I said, it should fit not too tight but snugly around your head. The thing to note is that you want to make sure that you end on an odd number of rows. So as I said, I have 54 right now. If you count the ridges, each ridge is 2 rows, right? So this ridge right there is that row plus that row. So you can just count the ridges, and when you end on that odd number, you should have an extra row after that ridge. So that's what this last row is going to be. So chain 1, and if it makes it easier for you, you can go into the stitch before you turn, just so you kind of know where you're supposed to go. That might help some beginners. And then, as I said, kind of angle your work so that you're looking at the tops, and then you're able to go into the back loops really easily because you can see where you're going. Being able to see where you're going is always very helpful. And then into that last one. Hopefully you have also not been missing that last single crochet of each row. It's very important, because if you miss it, then you're decreasing. Okay, so you should have been maintaining 4 single crochets all along. Alrighty, so now let's connect these. So I'm going to connect this edge with the other edge and turn it around like this, so it's like that. Make sure it's not twisted or anything when you connect. That could be bad, right? So just kind of straighten it out and make sure you have it lined up. So this is lined up. This is the tail from the very beginning. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to crochet the back loops of these stitches on this edge, and then the whole tops of the chain stitches on this edge. So let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to go into there like that, and then over here for this one, that corner, that's where I'm going to stick a crochet hook like that, And you know what? I'm going to crochet over this tail. It's just in the way. It's begging to be crocheted over. So I'm going to crochet over it. Alright. And then I'm going to yarn over. And just kind of do a slip stitch without losing the yarn. Okay, there we go. Alright. So I've connected those two by doing that. Next one, I'm going to go into the back loop of that one, pull that tail down and like that, and then I'm going to go into the corresponding stitch of that one, making sure I'm getting all of the stitch, yarn over, and slip stitch across all the way through. Alright, we should have two more, which we do, one there and one there. So here, get that back loop, like that, and then here is that one, yarn over, pull all the way through, and then finally this one right here, there's the back loop hiding in there. So get your needle in there, your hook in there, and then on this side, that very end, if I can turn it, there we go. Oops, took some that I didn't want. Sorry about that. Okay. Yarn over and slip stitch. Alrighty. So now this is essentially what we have. We created another ridge. Okay. So now we're going to chain one. We're going to start putting single crochets at the ends of each of these rows. So just think about it. Between the ridges, you should have 2 single crochets, right? Remember, a ridge is 2 rows. So here's a ridge and here's a ridge. That's a row, that's a row. So we're going to put 1 single crochet there and then 1 there. And then between these two, that's a row and that's a row. So 1 there and 1 there. So we're going to put single crochets all the way around at the end of each of these rows. Alright, so I've chained 1, and remember, you're going to put 1 single crochet at the end of every row. Because I slip stitched the edges together, that kind of throws things off. So instead of having a total of 55 single crochets as I go around, I want you to have an even number, so I'm going to have 54. Okay, so this is, you can see, that's where I connected them. So I'm going to go into this space right here, so between these 2 ridges, and I'm going to put my first single crochet at the end of that one. So yarn over, pull through, yarn over, go through 2. Alright, and then right on the other side for that row, I'm going to go in there and put a single crochet. Alright, so that's 2. Here's a ridge, and there's a ridge, so I know I got to put 1 single crochet there and 1 there. So let's do that. Yarn over, 1, and then on the other side, 2. So that's 4. Here's a ridge, so go in there. 5. Try not to lose your hook or your hole that you're working with, the loop. So 5, and then there is 6. Like me, by the way. Alright, here, between that ridge and that ridge, 1 there and 1 there, so 7. I'm trying not to split your yarn. And then 8. Alright, and so on. So you'll just continue making single crochets around until we get back around here to this like maroon color. Once again, remember, it's very important that you have an even number of single crochets when you get around here, because next we're going to start the famous bean stitch. Alright, so I have just crocheted my 54th single crochet. Here's where they joined. You can tell because of the color change, right? There's like a gradient right there. And then right here is where I slip stitched, and then that's the first single crochet. So that's where I'm going to slip stitch. I'm going to go to that first single crochet, which is right there, and slip stitch. So just go all the way through. Now I'm going to chain 1, and in this very same hole that we just went into slip stitch, that's where I'm going to create my first bean. So what I'm going to do is go into the hole, yarn over, pull through to the front. So I have 2 loops. A lot of strands for 2 loops, right? But 1, 2. Now I'm going to yarn over, go back into that hole, yarn over, pull through to the front. Now I have 4 loops. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3, and that's 4. Now, if you watched my previous video, the tutorial on how to make the bean stitch, normally you would yarn over, go back in 1 more time, and that would give you a total of 6 loops. But because this yarn is so chunky, it's so bulky, I'm going to stop at just the 4 loops because it's more than enough yarn to create the pattern. Okay, so now I'm going to yarn over, turn my hook so that I can hopefully go through all of those loops, all 4, and then to complete this I'm going to chain 1. The chaining 1 kind of groups all of those loops together, and it also will create a space when it's time to work the beans for the next round. Alrighty, so that's our first bean. Now the next single crochet is there. You're going to skip that single crochet and move on to the next single crochet there, and that's where we're going to place our next bean. So remember, initially you don't yarn over, you just go in to the top of the stitch, yarn over, pull through to the front. You have 2 loops on your crochet hook. Now we yarn over, go back in there, yarn over, pull through to the front, and now we have our 4 loops. Like I said, it's a lot of individual strands for 4 loops, but yes, 4 loops, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we yarn over, turn our hook, and try to go through all the loops without snagging. Okay, and I feel like there's a snag in there somewhere, so I want to take it out because I am a perfectionist and do it again. Alright, and yeah, you can tell where that right there, that strand is kind of pulled up, that's where it snagged. So let's do it again. Go in, yarn over, pull through to the front, that's 2 loops. Now yarn over, go back in there, yarn over, pull through to the front, that's 4 loops. Yarn over, turn your hook, and go all the way through. And see how I have tension? That's an indication that I didn't snag on any of the yarn. And to complete it, chain 1. This is the next single crochet, so we skip it, and now we go to that one. Insert your crochet hook into that single crochet, yarn over, pull through to the front, 2 loops, 1, 2. Now we yarn over, go back in there, yarn over, pull through to the front. We have a total of 4 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, turn our hook, and pull all the way through. I didn't snag, I just lost my loop. There we go. And now we chain 1. Okay, next single crochet is there. We skip it and we go into that one. Yarn over, pull through to the front, 2 loops, 1, 2. Now we yarn over, go back in, yarn over, pull through to the front. We have 4 loops, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, turn our hook, and go all the way through. Chain 1. Okay, So you can see these beans, they're so cute. They are being created, right? Even though we're not continuing to crochet until we get a total of 6 loops, they're still creating that bean look. Alright, just for fun, let's do one with 6 loops. Let's try to do one with 6 loops. Alright, so this is the last bean we made. That's the next single crochet. We skip it. So we'll go into this one. Go in there, yarn over, pull through to the front, 2 loops. Yarn over, go back in there, yarn over, pull through to the front. That's 4 loops. I'm scared, you guys. Yarn over, go back in there, yarn over, pull through to the front. That's 6 loops in there. Let's see if we can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Felt like I lost count somewhere. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright. And now yarn over, turn our hook, and here's to fingers crossed, wishing that we get all the way through. Wow, we did it. Very good. Okay. And then chain 1. Okay, so if you want a bigger bean, then feel free to go in that 3rd time to get it bigger. Okay, that's the difference in size. All right, so you'll have these with just 4 loops that you go through, and you'll have that one with 6 loops. You know, I actually kind of like the bigger bean. All right, so maybe I'll go back and redo these. Anyway, so what you guys need to know is to just continue doing this. Okay, so skipping a single crochet, going into the next one, creating your bean. Don't forget to chain 1 to complete the bean, skipping the next single crochet, and then putting a bean in the one thereafter, and just keep doing that. See how I'm leaving a single crochet between the beans? Okay, you're just going to continue doing that all the way around, and I will meet you once we get back over here. Alright, I have created my last bean, and there is one more single crochet there, which of course I skipped. By the way, I did chain 1 after that bean to complete the bean, and also I did go back and redo these first 5 or 6, and I made it so that I went in to the stitch 3 times, giving me a total of 6 loops to go through at the very end. So yeah, just to make bigger beans, because I like the beans. Alright, so I've completed this last bean. As I said, I chained 1. This is the last single crochet that I would be skipping, and I am going to skip it. So basically at this point, what you're going to do, and this is for every row, is slip stitch this bean, to that first bean. So we'll just come over here and slip stitch into the top of that bean like that. So yarn over, pull all the way through. Now we're going to chain 1, and in that same space, that's where our first bean is going to go. So remember, we don't yarn over before going in, we just go in. Now we yarn over, pull through for 2 loops. Now we yarn over and go back in, yarn over, pull through to the front for 4 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4. And by the way, you can stop here and yarn over and go through all 4, but I'm going to yarn over and go in for that 3rd time. Yarn over again, pull through to the front, and now I have 6 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm going to yarn over, turn my hook, and pray. Go all the way through. Alright, and I'll chain 1. Okay, so that bean is there, that bean is there in the row below, so I'm going to go in this space here. Okay, so just go in there, that's the next bean, that space right before that bean. Yarn over, pull through to the front, that's 2. Now I yarn over before going in, and go back in there, yarn over, pull through to the front. I caught something, so I'm going to come back out. So I just go in initially, make sure I'm not catching onto anything. Yarn over, pull through to the front, 2 loops. Now I yarn over before going in, go back in there, yarn over, pull through to the front. I have 4 loops. Yarn over, go back into that same space, yarn over, pull through to the front. I'll have 6 loops, yarn over, turn my hook, and go all the way through. Chain 1. Alright, just on the other side of that bean, so just there. Go in to that space, yarn over, pull through to the front, 2 loops, yarn over, go back in there, pull through to the front, yarn over, go back in there, yarn over, pull through to the front. I have 6 loops, yarn over, turn my hook and go all the way through like that. Chain 1. Okay, so as you can see, these beans are sort of staggered in between the beans below. Okay, and you're just going to continue this around. So the next bean will go here, the next one there, the next one there, the next one there, the next one there, and so on. Alright, and when you get back around, this will be where you have your last bean, and then you will slip stitch into that bean. Okay, this is where we connect it, so that's not the space, but that's your last bean. You'll do your chain 1 and then slip stitch into that bean, and then don't forget to put that first bean right there where you slip stitched into. Okay, and just continue doing this for several rows until the hat gets tall enough to fit on your head the way you want it to fit, and I will meet you there. Alright, so I am at about 7 inches, and I'm probably gonna go to about 9 or 10. I'm also about to go to my 3rd ball of this Yarn Bee QIQ yarn that I absolutely love. It's just such an awesome colorway. I think it reminds me of like stained glass like yeah, like church stained glass, like those windows. Yeah, so I love it. Anyway, so I'm just going to, just in case, for those of you who are really new and you've never connected the end of one ball to another, I'm going to show you how I do that. Okay, so this is how I joined the new skein or ball. So this is obviously coming from the hat, and this is where I left off. This is the new skein. I just tie a couple of knots. So there's 1, and the reason I usually tie 2, or at the very least more than 1, is because if you pull, it can kind of slide. See how it can slide out? So to prevent that from happening, I tie a 2nd one, and then you don't really have to worry about that. You tie that way. Now I'm pulling with a lot of strength, and the yarn is not slipping because they're 2 knots. Okay, and then I just continue crocheting on. So there's the chain 1, and then I go into here like before without yarning over first, pull through, and since that's right there, I'm going to leave that kind of small so that that stays on the back side. If it came through, then you could just crochet with it and crochet over it. Alright, now I'm going to yarn over, go back in. Okay, and then yarn over one more time, go back in, pull all the way through, yarn over, turn your crochet hook, and go all the way through. Okay, I lost it. There we go. All the way through, chain 1. So that's how you change your yarn, if you were wondering. Okay, alright, so just continue crocheting rows until you get to your desired height or length from here to the top there, and then I'll get back on once I get to the row where I'm going to decrease, and then after we decrease, we will close it up and you will have your hat, your bean stitch hat. Ah, so beautiful. All right, I'll see you in a bit. All right, so mine is about 9 inches tall, so I'm going to stop right there, and now we're going to start our decrease row. Okay, so I'm just going to show you one more time how to slip stitch when you're at the last stitch of the round. All right, here's that first bean stitch, so we're just going to go in there at the top like that, yarn over and pull all the way through. Now we're going to chain 1, and in that very same space, that's where we're going to put our first bean stitch. Remember, you don't yarn over first, so you're going to go in there, pull up. Now we're going to yarn over and go in there. And instead of yarning over and going in again, we're going to go over to the next place where we would put a bean stitch, and we're going to go in there, yarn over, pull through, and now we're going to yarn over and go through all of those loops. Okay, and then chain 1. So basically these 2 bean stitches have been reduced to 1, and that's how we're decreasing. We're going to do this all the way around, combining the 2 bean stitches at the bottom into 1 for this current round. Okay, so let's do another one. This is where we would put the next bean stitch, so let's go in there, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, go back in there, yarn over, pull through. Okay, we have 4 loops, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to go over to where we would put the next bean stitch, yarn over, go through. Now we have all 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're going to yarn over, turn our hook, and go through all 6 loops. Chain 1, move on over to the next set. So this is the last place where we put that bean stitch, or part of it. So over here is where we're going to start the next decrease. So right in there, pull up, yarn over, go back in there, yarn over, pull to the front. All right, 4 loops, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over. Now move over again to the next place where we put the bean stitch. Yarn over, pull through. Now we have 6 loops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yarn over, turn our crochet hook, and go through all of these loops like that. This is basically going to close up that hole a little bit, and then after doing this we will use the darning needle to close it up some more. Don't forget to chain 1, because that's going to complete the bean stitch. Alright, so we already put part of the bean stitch in that one, so the next one is over here. So go in, yarn over, pull through, that's 2 loops, yarn over, go back in there, yarn over, pull through, that's 4 loops. And now the last part of this bean stitch, where we get 6 loops total on here, by yarning over, we put over here into the next place we would put the bean stitch. Yarn over, pull through, and now we have all 6 loops. Yarn over, turn our hook, and go all the way through. And sometimes you might have to kind of take them one at a time, depending on how the loops are positioned on your crochet hook. Chain 1. Okay, so just continue decreasing with the 2 bean stitch spaces below, and I will meet you back around here. Okay, so here is the beginning right here, and we have this bean stitch, and then this is where we slip stitched. So since the last bean stitch went there, we know that this is the next place that we go, right there for that bean stitch. I've already chained 1 right there, right there. So let's do this bean stitch, pull up, Now if we look over here, like I said, this is where the slip stitch occurred. So since there's no other space over here for us to do another bean stitch, this will just be a regular bean stitch here. So we're going to go into this same hole right here 3 times to get all 6 loops on our crochet hook. Alright, so this is 2 now with 4 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, go back in there, yarn over, pull through to the front, and that's 6 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yarn over and turn our hook and go all the way through. Okay, chain 1, and now we're going to slip stitch into the bean stitch at the very beginning of that row, which is there. So just get in there, yarn over, and go all the way through. Okay, so at this point, chain 1, and you could leave a long tail, cut your yarn, and then start to cinch this top. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around putting 1 bean stitch in every space like I've been doing all along. Now that this hole is smaller, since I just had a decrease row. So this row right here will be a regular row. I'm not decreasing, I'm just putting 1 bean stitch in every space like I've been doing during the whole project. Okay, so just like during the whole project, where I slip stitch, that's where I put my first bean stitch, and I don't yarn over, so let me not do that. So go into that same hole and try not to catch on to anything. That's the toughest part when you're working with chunky yarn. Alright, that's 1. Yarn over, go back in there, pull through to the front. That's 2. So I have 4 loops now. Yarn over, go back in there. Sometimes I'll use my finger to open up the hole and hold the other yarn to make sure I'm not grabbing onto anything. That's 3, which leaves a total of 6 loops on my crochet hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yarn over, turn my hook, and go all the way through. Alright, yarn over, chain 1. The next space is this one right here, so I'm just going to go in there. Alright, yarn over, go in. Alright, yarn over, go back in. Alright, turn my hook and go all the way through. Chain 1. And these spaces will be very obvious because they're really wide. Alright, so just continue doing this all the way around, and this will help to further close up this hat. And after you get all the way back around and we slip stitch, then we will cinch it. Okay, alrighty, hopefully that makes sense. I'll see you back around here. Alright, I am back around, and here's the beginning. That's where I slip stitched before. So this is the first bean. So as you can see, I've chained 1 there, right there. So now the only thing left to do is just slip stitch to the first bean. So once again, just find the top of the bean, which is there, and insert your crochet hook in it like that. Yarn over, pull through, and pull all the way through. Alright, we're going to chain 1 so that when we cut your yarn we will fasten off. But before we do that, we're going to take quite a long piece, so give yourself a lot of slack because we're going to use this to cinch this hat together. Okay, so we'll cut our yarn, and I'm sure that's way more than I need, but better safe than sorry. And now fasten off. So just keep pulling it all the way through. Like that, finally. Alrighty. So now we have this hole, which is much smaller than it was, I'd say, before we did our decrease row and then that extra row. So we are going to take our darning needle, weaving needle, tapestry needle, this bad boy right here, and we're going to put our yarn through it. And this could be tough because it's such a thick yarn, so just take your time. It might help to kind of rotate it to kind of make it narrower. See how as it gets tight it gets narrower, and then also to, as you do that, kind of fold it like that, so that you're not working with this frayed part, with something that's more together. Let me retighten. That, so try to hold, and then we're going to try to get that through that eye. Wish me luck. So I like to kind of just rotate it like that, and then I grab, and every time I grab, my fingertips are right at the eye to grab any strands I did not get during the first grab. Alrighty, there we go. So now what I like to do is tie a couple of loose knots just so I don't lose it. So there's one, and then there is another one. Okay, because I don't want to have to re-thread or yarn this needle. Alright, and then I'm going to go back here to where I first started, okay, where I first fastened, and I'm going to go just behind this first beam, and then I'm going to come back out just before the next beam, which is there, so just before the next beam. You can just pull the slack as you go. This is a lot of yarn, and you don't need to make yours this long, but I just want to make sure I had enough. Alright, and then we're gonna go and just before that beam, let's go in here like that, and then out on the other side, and just keep doing that. Okay, so as you see, now I'm out, so on the other side I'm going in before the beam and then coming out on the other side of the beam, and just keep doing that, working your way around your hat. So we're on the outside now, so I'm gonna go in and then back out, and then in this space back in, and then on the other side back out. We'll just keep pulling the slack along with you. Once we get all the way around, we'll really tighten. But right now we're just kind of trying to weave the yarn in through the hat. Alright, so we're here. So to the back, on the other side of the beam, we'll come back to the front, cut, to the back, on the other side of the beam, to the front, and we should be getting around to the beginning sooner than later. Alright, to the back, to the front. Yes, and definitely bring the yarn along with you so that you don't get any knots. The longest part will be pulling all of that yarn with you if you started with a lot like I did. So yeah. Alright, and now I just want to make sure I haven't gone around too much. Okay, so yeah, I'm basically at the beginning again. Let's travel there. So I might have gone around a little bit further, but it's fine. So now we'll pull it in like that. Okay. And see, there's our hole. So you can just pull that tight like that. And then we can start to go through some stitches to close this hole up. So yeah, just go through some stitches around the hole, and that should help close it up. This part is always, in my opinion, very much so not that very precise. It's basically just doing what you need to do to close the hole up, to close the gap. So don't feel like you have to do it exactly the way I'm doing, going into the exact places that I'm going in. You don't. As long as the hole closes up, that is the most important thing. Alright, and I'm going to go across because I don't really see the hole anymore, which is a good thing. Alright, so now I'm going to go across the other way, so from there to that side. And then that should definitely close it all the way up that way. Okay. And there's the little hole right there. So let's go one more this way, onto that way, to that side. There we go. Okay, so now I don't really see a hole, so we're going to stick our we're going to stick our darning needle through to the other side. So put one through, there we go. And we're going to turn this inside out. And we're going to pull that through to this side. Like that. Alright. And pretty much what we did on the outside we're going to do on this side. So we're going to start going through some of these stitches first, just to really embed this yarn, because it's so chunky and we don't want it to come out. And after we've done that, sorry, I'm knocking crochet needles down. Okay. And after we've done that, then we will tie a couple of knots, do a little bit more weaving, and then we'll be done. So just go through here, through some nearby stitches, like that. Pull it through. Like that. I'm gonna go around like that. Alright, and now I'm gonna start to tie knots. Alright, so you'll see what I mean. Watch as that loop gets smaller, what I'm gonna do with the weaving needle. Alright, so see how there's a loop forming there? Right there? Before I pull and this closes all the way, I'm gonna stick my needle through there like that, so that as it closes, a little knot will be formed like that. Alright, and let's do it again somewhere. Just gotta get our bearings. Alright, let's just go through. Let's go through there. Through there. There we go. And I'm going to go through the loop here now before it gets super small. Alrighty. And now let's do one more. Just in there through these stitches. And we'll go through there like that. Okay. Now we will just go through some yarn, one direction, alright, and then we'll go back in the other direction, just going through some stitches. This hat was probably secure a long time ago, but you just want to make sure that it does not come undone, especially with such chunky yarn. Okay, so once you get to the point where you feel like it's secure, then you can stop with all the weaving in of the yarn and the tying of knots and all that. But I just like to make sure, especially when I'm working with chunkier yarn, that I've done an excellent job weaving in the yarn. And yes, clearly I used more than was necessary of this yarn, you know, to weave in, but as I said, better safe than sorry. Alright, so now I'm gonna finally cut my yarn. And I'm gonna pull with this back the correct way. And so this is what the top looks like. Now you can put a pom-pom up here if you want. So this is what the head is looking like so far. Let's deal with this eyesore, shall we? Alright, let's see if we can get this onto our weaving needle. It's kind of a short tail, but it should be okay. So just kind of try to roll this so it's narrower, and then just kind of finagle it through the eye like that and start to grab close to the eye. Alrighty, got it. So we're gonna go into the area that's the same color as this, which is this area over here. So just go through a few stitches in one direction, and I'm not gonna go very far because the tail is so short. And of course, short enough where it comes off of my needle, so I need to put this back on. I kind of expected that, although I would have appreciated it not doing that, but it's okay. Alright, and then back in the other direction. So you may have to go almost to the very end here to get the needle back far enough. Oh, there we go. Alright, so and then back in the other direction through some stitches. Like that. Alright, and then also what I like to do is I like to take a smaller crochet hook. So I'm going to take this one right here, and then I like to go through a nearby stitch, yarn over, and then pull it through to kind of tie a knot that way. And I'm going to do it again now that I've gotten that yarn in there on the inside. So, like that. Before pulling through, yarn over and try to go through it. It's going to be really tough. Okay, so this part, just try to get up under and through a stitch there close by. Yarn over, pull through, like that. And I want to leave that like that because it's on the inside and it helps me identify where the back is. Okay? You can cut it down if you want, but it's on the inside, as I said, and it's kind of positioned to go up, not hang out like that. So I think it's fine. That'll serve as my tag. Alright, you guys, so this is my men's crochet bean stitch hat. Isn't it awesome? It has this awesome ribbing, and then it goes into the bean stitch. I love this yarn. As I said earlier, it reminds me of the stained glass windows at church, and yeah, it's just beautiful. So I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you feel comfortable and confident making the bean stitch now. And yeah, as I said, you can always add a pom-pom or something on the top there, but since this is a dude's hat, I think we'll be alright without the pom-pom. That is it for this video. I will definitely see you in the next video. In the meantime, happy crocheting.